Good day, everyone. I'm going to give a brief introduction here to the Hermetic Medical Astrology course. Could start with some terms. Hermetic astrology, as we have it today, rests on the foundation of the astrology practiced in Alexandria early in the millennium, as seen in the works of Ptolemy and Vedius Valens, and later in Greece, Rome, and Europe. And that, in turn, rests on the esoteric and practical teachings of the earlier Egyptian and Mesopotamian schools over at least 2 millennia. Right? And so the term Hermetic itself comes from the pseudonymous author Hermes Trismegistus, who produced a book based on esoteric Egyptian teachings late in the Alexandrian period. A living tradition of Hermeticism and astrology emerges historically like an underground spring in the late 1800s in Europe, in a group known as the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor. A 20th century manifestation of the same stream, a successor, is found in the teachings of the Brotherhood of Light and its successor organization, the Church of Light. This is all really one stream, just some name changes there. And the main teacher and author with the Church of Light and the Brotherhood of Light was Albert Benjamin, and he wrote under the pen name C.C. Zain. These writings and teachings and a living tradition of Hermetic initiation is available today through the Church of Light and its affiliated Academy of Hermetic Arts. The Brotherhood and the Church engaged in a lot of systematic research into the principles and practices of astrology during the first half of the 20th century. And they developed and evolved the existing system and to produce what today we call Hermetic astrology, suited to the modern era with some of the advantages of the technology of modern era, like, for instance, being able to cast a chart at the press of a button. We're able to do a lot more research. This development of this system, Hermetic astrology, it wasn't simply the heroic effort of one individual. It was done in community, often publicly in classroom settings, with many participants engaging in research and collectively reviewing many tens of thousands of charts and testing their theories and methods. So over several decades, this community tested and refined key aspects of Hermetic astrology, including aspects in their orbs, sign rulerships, the relative power of planets according to their placement, methods of using secondary and minor progressions and transits to show timing of events, and key indicators and constants for various professions, medical conditions, or life events. This collection of practices that was developed comprises a system. The system that we call today Hermetic astrology is taught by the Church of Light. It's unique among modern systems of astrology, although sharing all the basic elements with others, and at the same time it rests firmly on tradition. There was no innovation during the 20th century that goes against anything that went before. An example of the depth of this research was the practice of collecting for various diseases 100 charts for individuals with the known condition. They did this for many conditions, and then looking for common indicators in all 100 charts, in natal charts and in progressed charts for the onset of the condition. And the results are contained today in the lessons of the Church of Light. And they describe indicators and constants for dozens of medical conditions. And it's on this foundation of research, with this systematic approach to Hermetic astrology, that this free course I'm introducing is built. So a bit about myself: I've been practicing astrology since 1971. That puts me in my 51st year. And not just dabbling, practicing pretty intensely over that time. And I've been studying the Hermetic system since 1973. I haven't been exclusively dogmatically attached to any one system. I've studied and experimented with the major innovations in astrology, recent, such as midpoints, harmonics, asteroids, and indications of for specific degrees of the zodiac, and so on. In addition, I've been studying and practicing. This is the other half of medical astrology is medicine. I've been studying and practicing natural medicine professionally, natural medicine, natural healing, nature cure, nutrition, and medical herbalism, also since 1973. This is my long professional career. I practice and teach natural medicine today through several schools that I founded. My training includes doctoral level studies at a medical school, and this kind of dual concentration in medicine and astrology led me to an increasingly intense study of medical astrology, especially during the early 1980s. And I began teaching the Hermetic system of medical astrology that I'm describing here to physicians and medical students in 1988. And I've taught this to professional astrologers also ever since that time. For some decades then, I've been experimenting with the Hermetic system in medical astrology. I always consider my astrology an open experiment, all trying to either confirm or reconfirm what I've found in the past, not just accepting things as dogma. We're always looking to that thing has to be relevant, has to be there in the chart, and it has to match what's happening in the life. We have to constantly be assessing for that. So I began experimenting. For some decades, I've been experimenting with the Hermetic system in medical astrology. In 2015, I started a more intensive study. My initial project was to take the accurate charts of 100 individuals with one or more known medical conditions and test the Hermetic medical system that I had developed. Following the procedures strictly to see if the system would accurately show the condition and the timing. I'm going to show you the results of that study in a minute. From 2019 to the present, I researched some of the conditions examined by the Church of Light researchers in the last century to confirm them, if possible, with a modern set of charts in a different era, in different time, and a different astrologer doing the work to confirm what they were doing, or to identify constants that they may have missed in earlier research. We have technology today for rapid calculating a chart in its progressions. You can just do it in a matter of seconds, which all that work in the 20th century was done by hand using logarithms. They didn't even have calculators. So I also examined some of the modern conditions not known 100 years ago, such as COVID-19, Parkinson's disease, Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis, and various other autoimmune conditions. So here I'm going to give you a few snapshots of the findings of what I described above, and consider these little preview snippets of what would be in the course. So here's just a preview of some of the things you'll see in our free course. Yes, okay. First of all, I described the trial of charts that I did starting in 2015. I took charts with birth certificate times selected from Gogolin's Book of American Charts. I looked at several hundred sequential charts for available data on biography, illness, injuries, and or the cause of death. Right. So of those several hundred charts, I found 122 charts with birth certificate times, and the health information was there. And so these 122 charts, the individuals had an average of 2 health conditions each, with a range from 1 to 9, right? So there was a total of 249 conditions of individuals assessed, many duplicate medical conditions. So let's say one individual might have had heart disease and prostate cancer, and someone else may have had COVID-19 and heart disease, and someone else may have had multiple sclerosis and Lyme disease, right? So they would be included in different data sets for examining that particular, the constants for that disease. So here are the results. Some of our indicators for diseases come from the sign, which governs the zone of the body, and some of them come from disease constants, and this is typically will be a planet or the ruler of a house. So conditions with the sign and the ruler, a particular person had a particular disease. In this case, there were 199 charts where the condition was indicated by a sign, say for instance, injury to the hip by Sagittarius or something, or a lung issue with Gemini. So there were 199 charts. The natal sign or its ruler. There isn't always an aspect in the sign of the anatomical zone, but we're also looking at the ruler of the sign, which will reflect back into that. The natal sign or the ruler indicating the disease had a discordant aspect, 100%. Okay. Conditions with disease constants. This would be like, say, instead of Sagittarius for the hip, it would be like Jupiter for the liver or the arteries, right? Or Mercury for the breathing apparatus or the nervous system, and so on. So there were 249 charts that had disease constants, and constants with a discord to that in the natal chart were 100%. Okay. Conditions with a known progressed date. This would be for the onset of illness. We had 180 charts like that. Any progressed, this would be to the sign or its ruler, any progressed discord to the sign or ruler, 100% of the charts at the onset of the disease had a discordant progressed aspect to the ruler of the sign, that indicated the zone of the disease. And this is conditions with a known progressed date. There were due to constants rather than signs, there were 234. But they had a progressed discord to that constant, 233 of the 234. And I can tell you, I really racked my brain studying that 234th chart to try to find the discord in there, but it just wasn't there. So, but these, you have to look at this. You say this is simply remarkable. It's a remarkable concordance, and so this the thesis here is I have these diseases and conditions, and I'm testing a system, the whole package, Hermetic astrology with its rules on orbs, its rules on aspects, which aspects to use, etc., what elements of the sky to use and which ones not, and so on. But I took the whole system as it was, practiced it strictly, and came up with results like this. So I would, this would be, if you're interested in this course, this would be why it might benefit you to learn or practice the system of Hermetic astrology if you want to get results like this. This is another preview from the course. We have what emerged in looking at the charts is I started seeing in the charts for the diseases and the indicators for diseases, a certain discordant aspects were really common. They were almost universally there, right? And these are two aspects that are in some systems of astrology. They're considered minor aspects, and in reality, nothing's minor. They all have an effect. But these, it turns out these two aspects, the semi-square and the Sesqui-Quadrate, they are extremely important aspects in medical astrology. And I would posit you simply can't practice medical astrology without examining these aspects. I can show you why in a minute, but here in our Hermetic system, we have the semi-square is 140, it's 45, the Sesqui-Quadrate is 135. And you can see in the Hermetic system, we allow a pretty wide range of orbs there. If those are angular houses to the sun or the moon, it's a 6-degree orb there. This is more than many other systems of astrology would allow for these aspects. They're considered minor aspects with only a few degree orb. And this goes all the way over to 6, 5, 4, or even the in a cadent aspect to a planet would still be a 3-degree orb for the aspect, and that means there's a these are they may be minor. These are just a little bit less than than what you would see for a square or a trine, right? So these are important aspects just by their orbs. But I'm going to show you the pattern that I began to see, and this is a preview of the course. This is something we know very commonly in astrology. We have an opposition, which is discordant, and we can have a third planet, which we can say harmonizes that, ameliorates that. There's a planet here, it's trine to one end and sextile to the other. And these kind of patterns, these are really drivers of success, because you get a lot of energy from the opposition, and then you have opportunities and possibilities to use that energy to manifest harmonious things. What I had never heard of this thing I'm going to talk about now. It's an aggravated discordant aspect. I have never heard of that in astrology, and I started seeing these in one medical chart after another. And here is an example. This is the third planet. Instead of providing a harmony by a trine or a sextile, it adds discord to the opposition by having a Sesqui-Quadrate to one end and a Sesqui-Square to the other. And they say if the opposition, which is drained or harmonized by a trine, is like a third thing that comes like a diplomat and tries to make peace between the two warring forces, this is a third party comes and sits by and says, and aggravates both sides, provides them with weapons, and strikes the match on the fire and said, why don't you guys fight, right? So this aggravating thing. The opposition here is an aggravated opposition. And we can generate so many charts now so quickly, that you can actually see a lot of charts if you're researching one thing, as long as you can get some birth data. So in this case here, for instance, here's a square. This would be an aggravated square. You have a planet in the middle is semi-square to both ends, right? This would be another kind of aggravated square. A planet down here is semi-square to one end and Sesqui-Quadrate to the other, and so on. I'm not going to, we cover these in a little more detail in the course. I'm going to just show you some of the pictures. They actually look, they look pretty imaginative. Here we could probably have a contest and decide what to name these things. But see here, example, this is an opposition with a square, right? A square arranged in such a way that the points on the square each aggravate the opposition at the same time. And this is, we given in when we do the course, we're presenting a chart with this in it. It's a man who had like 8 heart attacks and lived with an artificial heart for a time. And this opposition was in Leo in that case. These are some other those patterns. So I'm going to show you the significant why you in medical astrology, if you don't consider semi-square and Sesqui-Quadrate, you can't practice medical astrology. Okay, you will never predict the right issue or condition there. In this study, Sesqui-Quadrate and Sesqui-Square in our study, the total conditions of individuals, I had 251. A semi-square or a sesqui-quadrate to the natal or progressed rulers or constants, 241 out of 251. Okay? That's 96% of the charts of somebody with a known disease have a semi-square or a sesqui-quadrate to the key indicators of the disease in the chart. And then I described the aggravated aspect, like an opposition or a square, with planets aggravating with these sesqui-quadrate or semi-square aspects. Here, a major discordant aspect in the chart is aggravated by a semi-square or sesqui-quadrate complex to natal or progressed rulers and constants. It was 194 of the charts, or 77% of the charts, had around the significators of the disease, had a core discordant aspect with an aggravator also present in the chart. So this in my training and in my earlier study, I had never examined these kind of patterns or configurations. And in the course of this past, I've been doing this for 7 years now, that it emerged. These are very, very common. And I would posit, without looking for these or assessing these or noticing these, you probably can't practice medical astrology effectively. I have one more thing, one more preview point here to discuss, and this would be new research into constants. This would be constants into some new conditions, and I'll just conclude here with this is what we found with COVID pneumonia. Now, this isn't, the COVID infection, the coronavirus infection. Oh, maybe 20 or 30% of people who get that never actually get a symptom. So you wouldn't even call that medical astrology, right? So you won't just say, you aren't going to predict who's going to get a COVID infection, right? A great majority of the rest will have flu-like symptoms, either mild symptoms or kind of flu-like symptoms, but only a small percentage are going to end up in the hospital, right? Maybe between 1 and 5% are going to end up in the hospital. And probably of the known people who get infected, probably only 1 or 2% are going to die. So, but what we want to know in the middle of a pandemic, such as we are right now, is, wow, who's at really, really serious risk? Right? Now, I'm going to say of ending up in the hospital or the ICU or dying from this. And, the first thing I'm going to say is astrology will never take the place of common sense. If a person develops any kind of alarming symptoms, they develop a prolonged high fever or shortness of breath, the difficulty breathing or whatever, then you just get over to the emergency room. Don't go look at your chart and see if you have risk factors for serious disease before you go to the hospital. Now, this is what we found. I found 14 charts of individuals who had been admitted to the hospital and given supplemental oxygen to breathe, or were put on a ventilator, or died, right? We have 14 charts diagnosed with COVID-19. And here, this is what I found, the intensive study of those charts. All charts had a discordant aspect and a progression, either to a planet in Cancer or to the moon. I explain this in great detail in the course, the reason why Cancer and the moon. This is pneumonia. This is a lung infection. The lung has upper lobes and lower lobes, and the upper lobes are ruled by Gemini. The lower lobes of the lung are ruled by Cancer, and by its ruler, the moon. And the lower lobes of the lung is where the damage from COVID pneumonia occurs, right? So here we found in these charts, all the charts had the indicator in Cancer or its ruler, the moon, for a discord. There was also, all 14 charts had a discord to a planet in Gemini or to Mercury, which was active by progression. Each of these, all 14 had a discord and a progression to Mars, discord and progression to Saturn, and a discord and progression to Neptune. This way in the course, we can explain why this makes sense. Neptune is infectious epidemic type diseases. Saturn is serious serious disease possible causing tissue damage. Mars is a feverish infection. Gemini rules the upper lung and the breathing, etc. So this is what we found in the chart. This is not theoretical. This is what we found in the charts. Now, what you'll see if you take the course, you'll see that you always want to know, is this just random? You know, is this just random? Like maybe lots of people have discords and progressions to these planets all the time. So I did for this study, I did a control group, and what I got 25 individuals with no known condition. Right? I actually took 25 people named Jones, in a sequential people named Jones from Astro Databank, right? It's a random group of people. So I wanted to compare, are some of these positive things where we're finding associations, are they really, are they just random? Then maybe those occur in a random control group also. So in this particular case, you can see 100% of the people who were hospitalized with breathing difficulties in COVID had all these indicators. In the control group, only 12 of the 25 people in the control group had all 5 of those indicators. So this is the kind of research we've done, the kind of research we report in the lessons. And this is I think we're at the end. I'll leave it to you, Vega, to put something in here about contacting, who to contact about the course, or how to download the courses at YouTube or wherever that is.
Yes, we find the courses on light.org. We find it on Facebook, and we find it on YouTube.
And how would somebody look those courses up?
They would look for the Church of Light on Facebook. They would also look for the Church of Light in YouTube, and they would find you right there, the very beginning. You are on top.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the course. The course is free. I hope it's useful. I hope you can help yourself, your family members, your communities, and your clients with that knowledge. I hope you'll take some of it, test it for yourself, for correct its flaws if they're there, and engage in the practice. And really, one of my motivations here is to inspire, to demonstrate and inspire people to study this Hermetic system of astrology and the teachings of the Church of Light. Okay, thanks.